As I stared down into that pit and began making my way down, not unexpectedly, I suddenly saw a whirl of energy coalescing into a doorway, a spherical or circular passageway, as a large number of hands began to reach out for him, attempting to grab him and pull him through. But this time, I was prepared for it. As they reached out, attempting to grasp hold and pull him through, he was still attached to a bunch of my metal. It didn't take more of a thought, more than a thought, for chains to fling themselves out of the form of the liquid steel surrounding his body, striking out into the surrounding cement and concrete, hoisting his body off of the ground and pulling it into the air, affixed by half a dozen chains into the surrounding crater as I jumped down, landing on top of him. "I don't freaking think so," I exclaimed as I pulled a few chains out of the form surrounding him, beginning to launch them at the doorway, seeing a few faces on the other side. This is a great chance to snag a few extras. Unfortunately, as the chains flung out, the portal closed rapidly, the chains themselves smashing into the concrete behind where the portal once was. "You bastards are getting him back over my dead body," I exclaimed as I had the chains hoist us higher and higher until we were no longer inside of the crater, being held aloft by the countless chains. "Any of you numbskulls want this idiot back? Feel free to hop out of your hidey holes, and we can tussle for him. Winner take all," I exclaimed, staring out and around. They were obviously watching from somewhere, but there was no telling where exactly. Surely enough, inside of some of the interior buildings, there were countless people looking out, watching the clash between us, and there's no telling which one of them, or if even there are multiple of them, out there spectating, delivering details. Lots of them had their phones out, recording, so there was no telling who was sending video directly to the enemy. I pondered it for a moment before looking back down to the muscle-bound moron I was standing on top of. I don't have time for this." "You're right, Keven," Nylea exclaimed. "We must do this quickly. Remember, the symbiote." "Yeah, I know, Nylea," I replied, as I finally released the chains, allowing the giant to clatter to the bottom of the hole again. "Now, a little privacy. We don't want everything out just yet," I said as I brought the liquid metal to a swirl around me, forming a dome around our location. With a little focus, I was able to allow light to pass into the dome, but for it to still not be visible what was going on inside, as I stared down at the behemoth at my feet. "Okay, big guy, you've got something that doesn't belong to you," I said as I kneeled down, placing my hand on top of his chest. "Let's get this going." And just as before, I felt that strange sensation as Nylea began the process of trying to detach the symbiote. After a short time of feeling these strange vibrations and sensations, just as before, there was a convulsion in his body that lasted for a moment before he laxed back, and I felt the feeling of Nylea reaching around inside. "Okay, I've got him," she exclaimed as once again I gently began to pull, as just as before, the symbiote began to pull free, struggling and wriggling against Nylea's pulling, but finally separating from the Goliath beneath me, at which point, just as before, I locked him inside of a small sphere, placing the sphere into one of the plates of armor on my body. Well, that's one superpowered asshole I'm not gonna have to deal with anymore. One down, who knows how many to go. "It's all good, Keven. Every single one of these symbiotes that we can free is a positive thing," Nylea said. "Now that they're beginning to take action against you, they'll attempt to come into confrontation. And with every chance that they feel that they have to confront you, take you out, is another chance for you to claim yet another symbiote, to free them from their control before they're tainted beyond repair, Nylea said, as I dissipated the large dome around us, allowing us to become visible, as I began to lift myself and the big muscle head out of the hole, bringing us up to the edge with chains, and then dropping him on the edge of the hole, his body clattering to the ground with a resounding thud. I could see all of the squad cars pulling up in the distance. As they approached, the first thought that came to mind was the two cops that he smashed through the window. Are they okay? I should probably tell them to go check them out. Hopefully, if some serious damage was done, it's not too late for them. As I began heading for the perimeter that the cops were setting up, ready to tell them about their two friends, that they could probably use some help, suddenly a figure bounded over the entire patrol squad, clearing a jump that must have been 20 foot easily, landing gently on the other side as it began to run in my direction. It looked like a woman. With a jump like that, there's no doubt she's definitely a symbiote user. "Wait a second, hold on! This is a sealed area!" they exclaimed as they began to pull their firearms. In the moment, I began to rush in that direction, trying to make sure that they didn't get themselves killed, as shots began to ring out. And as the shots were fired, there seemed to be these reverberations of sound, like shockwaves in the air as the bullets seemed to simply stop, a burst of vibrant color bringing them to a stop as they clattered to the ground in midair. "Stop shooting! Stop shooting!" the female figure said. It was at that point that I took notice of the strange manner of dress they were wearing. They were wearing typical clothing, stuff you might see any girl wearing, with one exception. There was a large pink beanie over their head. Not a ski mask, just a beanie, pulled down low, with holes haphazardly cut into it. It was a terrible job that looked like it was obviously a rush, and didn't strike me as the type of thing that a member of the Black Dog Syndicate would use. What the hell is going on? I thought as the cops finally stopped firing, figuring that I was going to handle it as I approached. As I grew closer, swirling some of the steel around me and preparing for anything. Wait, the woman said, holding out her hands and waving for me to stop. "I'm not here to fight. I swear I'm not here to fight." "Okay, then what the hell are you here for? Who are you?" I don't think I want to just say that, like, right here. You know, there's a lot of people out here. I don't exactly want them to know about this. But I saw what was going on, and, this little disguise is the best that I could do. It was short notice, don't judge. "Okay, so why are you here?" "Wait a second. Do you have one of the escapees?" I exclaimed, as she began shaking her head vigorously. Yeah, that's it. I just needed to talk to you. I figured if anybody could help me out in this situation, it would be, the Heavy Metal Knight. I mean, you look like you've got a real grip on this whole thing, and I could use the help." "Okay, so maybe we should adjourn to somewhere more private to have this little discussion. Would that be all right with you?" I said, still not exactly trusting her. After all, there were plenty of members in the Black Dog Syndicate. This could just be a performance. Yeah, actually, I'd kind of prefer that." "Fine then. Wait there. I have some things to handle, and afterwards we can have a chat," I said as I cautiously passed her by. She seemed to be genuinely nervous, at least on the surface, but there's no telling. She might just be a good actress. I continued to the police, telling them that there were a few of their friends in a nearby store that have been seriously injured, and that they could use some medical attention. telling them that this figure that had jumped over wasn't familiar to me, but there was a possibility that she was just an innocent person who had nothing to do with the Black Dog Syndicate, but that if she was, I'd handle it and bring her back. They had definite questions and were a bit upset when I told them that the information was secret and that I couldn't tell them. But they seemed to trust me and let me do as I saw fit. After that, I reabsorbed all of the liquid steel that I had collected from the surrounding areas, taking it back into me, all with the exception of the partition of the heavy metal spirit, once again calling out large sets of wings as I reached down, picking up the woman. What? Oh no, don't tell me you're gonna, she exclaimed, as with a large beat of the wings I took off. As I did, she wrapped her arms around me and began screaming, clinging to me exceptionally tightly. Oh, I hate heights, she exclaimed as we flew away. I made a fair distance away from the location of the confrontation, finding a distant rooftop to land on as I put her down gently. Oh, she exclaimed as her feet once again touched solid ground, seeming fairly relieved to be out of the air. Oh, thank goodness that's over. Okay, so, what's your deal? And what's your symbiote's name?